Good evening, Giants. Welcome to a special edition of Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris. Have you ever wondered how to align with your purpose? We've got an amazing show. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris. It's a special edition. It's the evening episode we got going on. I'm here.
Some people are waking up right now.
Yeah, there you go, all over the world, right?
I'm here joined with Nicholas the MG Smith. That's the mythical almost giant, Nicholas T. Smith, and he's got an amazing guest lined up for us today. Nick, will you introduce him?
Yeah, we've got Stephon Leary. And I'm going to go through your bio a little bit. So if I screw it up, I'll have you help me correct it here.
Hey, it's all fine. It's just words.
Yeah. So you spent 11 years as a high school athletic director. You were a teacher, a counselor, and a coach. You coached college basketball, Division I. You were assistant at Liberty University, 4 years as head coach at NCAA Division II. You were at Texas A&M International University, and you were a former NBA agent and trainer. And now, that's before all of this, now you're a business owner of Reaching New Heights basketball and training program and Shooting Stars AAU. Now, is
that it? That's all you've done?
No. We got more. More. So he's a best-selling author of the book They Call Me Coach, and he's current author of The Elevated Soul, You're More Than What You See. He's an inventor and a patent holder, and he's also a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
So, man, you wear a lot of hats.
Man, that's a mouthful. Which goes to tell you, man, I might be a little tired, but life is just getting started. So we put all that behind us, so we're moving on to bigger things. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we want to look at your journey, because your journey will inspire others in their journey. And that's our whole vision with all of this, is to help people recognize that we all can play small and we all can play giant. And so we want to go all the way back in time and look at your history from where it all began. What was it like when life began for you? What was childhood like? Tell us about that. Let's start there.
You know, I love your show. I love the Wake Up with Giants. And by the way, it's such a pleasure to be here with you guys this evening. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to you and your audience. And
thank you.
Hopefully we can inspire some people to accomplish all their goals and dreams and fulfill their purpose in life. My journey started as a small kid, man. I was born in a large family of 7 kids. We had a single mom. My mom left my dad in the middle of the night, grabbed the kids, threw us all in a car, and we went from a small town in Louisiana called Bunkie, Louisiana, which is where I was born. I was about 4 or 5 years old. So I woke up the next morning. I was in Houston, Texas.
Wow.
My mom, with that man that she ran off with, she was running from an abusive husband. They weren't really married, actually, abusive man, and who was my father. And we ended up in Houston, Texas, where life began for me. I have 6 siblings. My mom and that gentleman had another kid, so it was 7 kids. We grew up in impoverished part of Houston, Texas, called the 3rd Ward. We moved around from 3rd Ward to 5th Ward to South Park to Sunnyside to Southwood. I've lived all over Houston.
Hey, and some of those parts of Houston, just so people, I've lived there for a couple of years, and some of those parts of Houston, the difference in some of those places is they're a lot of them are really poor.
Yes.
Some of them, one of the ones, I think Sunnyside was probably worse. Was it 5th Ward? Sunnyside was probably worse than the 5th Ward.
That's right.
And the difference is in the 5th Ward, they had cars. In Sunnyside, usually not as much.
We had buses, man.
Yep. It's pretty poor. I remember walking through down there in the 5th Ward, walking along, and a guy pulls up to me and he goes, "It's a cop." I was dressed up in a white shirt and tie, and walking with my buddy, and I look over and the cop rolls up and he goes, "Boy, you know where you're at?" He said, "You better be part of the FBI, or you got to be Jesus boys." Luckily, we were out preaching the good word.
Yeah, that's
I said, "I
probably
know where
true.
we're at. We're good."
Yeah, but that's where life began for me. My mom, we used to have this joke every time the rent was due, we kind of moved. And so the funny thing is that we thought we were moving to a safer, better place. And it always seemed to be just as worse. So anyways, man, I grew up as a kid. My brothers and sisters, my oldest siblings, didn't care much for education, didn't care much for school. They did what most people do in the inner city, in the hood, is that you survive. You do whatever you can to survive. And so my siblings went the way of drugs and alcohol, dropped out of school, crime and things like that. I found myself in love with sports. And I tell people sports saved my life. It gave me a purpose. It gave me something to shoot for in life. However, the bar wasn't set high enough for me in sports that would allow for me to accomplish, the goals and dreams that I had. I never wanted to play college basketball in the sense that I followed it and I dreamed of it. I just wanted to play in the NBA. When you're in the inner city, everyone wants to be an entertainer or wants to be a professional athlete. And so that was the goal, but I skipped the idea that I was supposed to go to college. Because if someone tell you that you have to go to college to get to the NBA, they would have told you that you needed to go to school and get good grades. For me, I didn't go to school to get good grades. I went to school because I wanted to pass. We grew up with the no pass, no play rule. And so I did everything I could to pass so that I could play. I find myself meeting a coach, man, in a gym by the name of Dave Stallman, who's a great friend and a father figure to me still today, a mentor. Dave Stallman saw potential in me, and he decided that he would ask me one day, was I interested in going to a basketball camp? The basketball camp that he invited me to, little did I know at that time, was the late great Pistol Pete Maravich. Pistol Pete Maravich
played for the Utah Jazz.
Yes, absolutely.
We love him here.
He taught me the greatest lesson in life. It changed my life. I was a little rough around the edges because of the streets of surviving the streets, competitive in nature. And so when I went to the camp, I made sure that everyone knew just how good I was. And if you didn't catch my pass, and if I beat you or scored on you, in the hood, man, we talk trash, and I had a bad attitude, man. So that Friday to close out camp, my team went undefeated. Everyone thought that I was the best player there, so Pistol Pete invited me to lunch to close out camp. And I thought this was a reward that he was doing for me. And I thought, I showed them I was the best player in camp, and the Pistol wants to have lunch with me. Lo and behold, I get to this lunch, and Pistol Pete tells me, while you are the best player here and your team went undefeated, I give out an MVP award every year, every camp. And I just wanted you to know, you remind me of my teammate, Tiny Archibald, and if you really stick with it, you can one day be a pro. But I'm here to tell you, I'm not giving you that MVP award. And I said, well, why not? And he told me these words: because your character doesn't fit the award. For the first time in my life, my eyes were open to something greater than just being competitive, something greater than just being the best player. For the first time, I realized character mattered. Character was important. And so I flipped the table over, guys. I flipped the table over, and I called myself running out of the cafeteria. Little did I know, the camp was in Florida. We were in, I lived in Houston, Texas. I couldn't run very far. And so I ended up running to the edge of the curb. And the coach that took me there, Dave Stallman, he came and sat by me. He said, I invited you to this camp because I saw the same thing in you in the gym that I saw you in. And he said, if you do me a huge favor, he said, come and listen to Pistol Pete close out the camp, and we can go from there. I go to listen to Pistol Pete close out the camp, and he tells a story about his big mouth and how he was a braggadocious type player. He was the best at that time, and he made sure everybody knew it. He told the story of one day he almost lost his life because of his big mouth. And when he said that, tears started streaming down young Stephon Leary's eyes. I was 17 years old, and I didn't realize when I went to the camp it was a Christian camp. They closed out the camp with an opportunity and invitation for those who had not become a Christian to become a Christian. And it was on that day, June 18, 1986, Stephon Leary became a Christian. And it was almost instantaneous that my life changed. I go back to the inner city, and for the first time in my life, it was like the scales fell off my eyes, and I saw wrong for wrong and right for right. I began to think for myself for the first time that I could be somebody. I just didn't know how to do it. This coach, Dave Stallman, asked me would I like to go to a Christian school. And I said, Christian school, what is that? We got public schools. What's a Christian school? He said, it's a Christian school that teaches you everything public school does, except for it focuses on teaching you how to be a better Christian. I decided I was going to go to this school, and I went out to visit. We went to a 5 o'clock in the morning prayer meeting. And at this prayer meeting, I was the only young man there, the only young person there, let alone I was the only black person there. It was a little bit intimidating for me. However, after the prayer time was over, this lady came up to me. Her name was Lynn Johnson. Lynn said to me, she said, what is a young man like you doing here? I said, well, I'm here to visit the school. I'm with him, kind of intimidated. And she told me these words that for the first time in Stephon Leary's life, I felt loved, I felt accepted, I felt like I had purpose. She told me while we were praying, something told me to offer you a place to live. So if you come to this school, you have a home.
Wow.
Changed my life.
I
go to visit this camp. I go to visit this family, and when I walk through the doors, little did I know their sons went to the Pistol Pete camp as well. But there was this little blonde girl. Her name is Jessica, my sister. She runs up to me as I walk through the door, jumps in my arm, hugs my neck, and she tells me she loves me. And she asked me, would I be her big brother? And so it was from that point on, man, I was melted by love. I tell people my life was changed by love. And I was there that I discovered my true purpose into what I felt like God wanted me to be.
I want to visit this. I want to go back through your path a little bit.
Okay.
Because there are so many points that you pointed out already, and I know we're going to dive into more as we get into this. But I want to highlight parts of the journey that you grew out of, right?
Yes.
In the inner city where you were at, people were in survival mode.
Correct.
And in survival mode, it's really hard to see more than what is. And it's hard to see that there are possibilities inside of that. And I really want to highlight this because a lot of people get into these addictive behaviors because they don't want to face the survival.
Correct.
And that's all they think that life is about, is surviving, right? And you had these opportunities that you created them. Even the opportunity was with Pistol Pete to have him say to you, look, your character doesn't merit this award. You created being there so that you could have that experience of feeling let down and opening up, because if you hadn't been opened up like that, you might not have shifted your life, right?
That's
you might
correct.
have gone on. Yeah. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
I believe that opportunities come people's way that they turn away from. And I know you've heard the joke, or may have heard the story of a man who was drowning in the flood, climbing to the roof, asking God to save him, and boats keep going by. And then he finally says, God,
it's like no big deal. God's going to save me, right?
How
like,
many
you guys are good.
Can I send your way before you jump on?
Yeah.
And so I tell people, It was a difficult decision. When I first made the decision that, Mom, I had to leave, my mom wasn't very happy about it. Number one, the small town of Louisiana, in Bunkie, Louisiana, was a racist area. The tracks divided the whites and the black. And so she grew up, there's plantations right down the street. My mom grew up in an area, more so than I had to experience of racism. And so to think that she was going to release me into the hands of some white people, she wasn't too happy about.
Yeah.
But I told my mom, I said, Mom, no, they're not like that. This is a totally different story. These people love me. They care about me. And it took a little bit of convincing my mom that I felt like it was time for me to leave home and to pursue other avenues if I ever had a chance to be successful.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
I tell people, don't miss opportunities for an opportunity to change your life, change your path. They may not come in the form of something that you've thought about. Mine didn't. I never thought that I would be in a situation that I was in. But sometimes God opens doors that we don't recognize as opportunities. But when we take advantage of those opportunities and just take steps toward the seizing the opportunity, the carpe diem, seizing the moment, taking advantage of that, I believe that good things will happen in people's lives.
So I'm thinking about this, how often do we get so ingrained in our path? Like we have a way we think it should be done.
Yes.
And then something comes along that's outside of that and we miss it because we're thinking in our mind, it's got to look a certain way. So when it doesn't look like that, and the whole picture is like, you get to trust it. However it comes, it's going to serve you. It's going to get you where you want to go. But
that's right.
If you're so narrowed in your focus, you're going to miss it. Right.
Yeah.
Kind of like the guy on the boat.
That's
right. Not in the boat. He never made it.
I love what you said. My second book, The Elevated Soul, the title of it is You Are More Than What You See. And what I talk about in this book, You Are More Than What You See, is what you're talking about. We see things a certain way until they become impossible. But the impossible becomes possible when we begin to see ourselves for more than what we see. You have to allow yourselves to be stretched beyond what you see and what you grew up in. For me, what I saw every day was drugs and alcohol and crime, and that's what I was embedded into. It wasn't until I got outside of that I began to see things in a different light. And in this book that I talk about, I used the parallel of the life of the little lion Simba. Simba, at trauma, tragedy, difficult circumstances, they all come. They come in everyone's life. Everyone has those experiences. It's what are you going to do to bounce back from those things? A little lion cub named Simba runs away from his purpose. And he lost sight of who he was. And I say to people, how many times and how many people in our lives that we see today who run away because of the pain of abuse, the pain of divorce, the pain of neglect, the pain of rejection, depression. We run away to a place that we don't even know who we are anymore. And it's not until, like Simba did, that he looked in the water. When Rafiki came into his life, it wasn't until Simba looked into the water and he did the exact same thing that we all do. His first response was, it's just my reflection.
Yeah.
And that's what we do every day. We wake up and we see this face in the mirror. We see things and we say, it's just our reflection. And we see ourselves the same as we've always seen ourselves. But I love what Rafiki says, and I love the Rafiki voice. He said, look harder. And I tell people in life, I said, look harder. There is more in you than what you see. And when Simba looked harder, he saw his father's image in him. And I tell people that the best thing in life that you can do is you can look a little harder. And you'll see that there's a God that loves you. There's a God who cares about you. There's a God who created you in his own image. And if you saw yourself the way that he sees you, he will lead you back to your purpose. We all need to see ourselves a little bit more than what we see. I know for Stephon Leary, like my first book says, if I can, you can, because there is purpose, there is greatness, there are seeds of greatness inside of every one of us. We can't run from who we're supposed to be just because of the trauma, the painful experiences that we face in our lives.
So I want to highlight. So going back, you just related Nick's whole book, but to the Lion King, which was perfect because I hadn't thought of it in that way, and then I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like the Lion King. I think Nick might have watched the Lion King right before he wrote this book.
Maybe.
Yeah, because it talks about all the same things that you just talked about. Is it somebody that was small in their thinking, or they were surrounded by people that all did the same thing. It was their environment, right? Their circumstance.
No doubt.
And so he was a victim of his circumstance. He just kept looking, and that's all he could see. And just like you, at some point in time, somebody woke him up, meaning helped him elevate his consciousness of seeing something a different way. Absolutely. He looked up. He heard a giant in the book, The Giants and the Smalls. He heard laughter in the distance, a booming laughter, and looked up, and there's giants. And then something happened in his mind. He started to ask some giant questions.
And
he, for the first time in his life, thinks, well, why are they big and why am I small?
I love that.
Starts the different thought pattern of possibility thinking, right?
Yes.
Look harder.
I love that, man. I didn't know you wrote that book. I got to get a copy of that book. My first chapter.
We got you.
My first chapter is "You Are More Than What You See," and it talks about Simba in that light.
And we say giant potential. That's our. Everybody has it inside of them already.
That's right.
Well, okay. So
what you just said is, we talked earlier about opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I talked about Rafiki helping him see himself, but what I love most about that scenario that I write in my book is that Simba lost sight of himself so much that the things that he's supposed to eat controlled him. A pig and a
meerkat
told him how to live life, and he's supposed to be eating those things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was supposed to be a king, and
he's gonna eat me.
Right? He lived like a peon eating scrubs because he didn't know that he was a lion who was supposed to eat meat.
We call it pea soup and crackers.
There you go. But remember, he was also confronted by a longtime friend, Nyla.
Mm-hmm.
And when Nyla confronted him, she tried to help him see himself the way she saw him. She's like, I know you are the king. And she says in that song, I wish he would be the king that I see in him, the king that I know is inside. And when she said your parents and the whole pride would be happy to know that you're alive, Simba lost sight of himself so much so that he told her, please don't tell them I'm alive. It's amazing how many people live their lives not wanting people to know they're alive. They're hiding from their pain. The pain has them to the point of despair, to where they don't see themselves the way that they should see. They don't see themselves the way God sees them. And for that, we talked about opportunities earlier. Many opportunities pass them by because they just don't see themselves the way they do.
We've been talking about numbing like all week too.
Yeah.
So like keeps coming up, is numbing, like pain, numbing life. And I think it's that same thing, is that
good way to look at it.
Yeah, it's another type of numbing, is just not living into the potential.
That's correct.
Maybe it's fear, maybe it's people will see you for who you really are, or maybe you have to step into your giant potential, and that means that you got to live your authentic self, which could be painful to come out and say, this is really me. because of social, economics. It could be, your the different culture, the religion maybe that you grew up in, all kinds of things like that, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so I've got a poem that I wrote that ties into this, and I want to read it right now. And
let's do that.
I think it'll give us some more content around this because you're really hitting it. So the poem is, if you could see you, if you could see you the way I do, you'd humble at the sight. You'd never have another fear of if you'd be all right. You'd step into your greatness and help the world to see that life becomes amazing when you be who you're meant to be. Yet out of prudence and smallness, we choose to please the world. And instead of the success that we deserve, we find our plans unfurled. That's so not fair to who you are and what God made you for, because you were made to change the world. Yes, that's what's at your core. So don't play small in this incredible world where you can be anything you dream. You're a giant, and that's what's needed, despite how things might seem. Step into your greatness and let it grow. The world's waiting for your light. It needs you more than you'll ever know. So go after it with your might. See your power. Lean into it. I can't wait to see you lift. This is your purpose, your life's true path, to inspire others with your gift.
Wow. Love that. Love that. That basically sums it up right there.
Yeah, but we're not even done yet.
I know. I love that. I love that. And, I say to people, along those lines, I say to people, what mirror are you looking from? What mirror are you looking from? Some people are looking in the mirrors of social media. Some people are looking at the mirrors of Hollywood. Some people are looking in the mirrors of the neighbor down the street, the most popular person, the most, wealthiest person. The mirrors that you look in have cracks in them that you don't see yourself the way that you should see yourself. Get rid of the cracked mirrors. Look at the reflection that comes back to you that only says that you are beautiful, that you are great, that you are worthy, that you have purpose, that you can do all things. That's the mirror of greatness that you need to look at. Throw away those other mirrors, man. Get rid of every single one of them. And including, as you look at mirrors in the car, you got one over your head and you got two on your side. They're useless. They keep you looking back. Get rid of them.
Yeah.
Get rid of them.
That'll go over well. So I want to hit on what you talked about is the giant is already within you. There wasn't a thing that Stephon had to become. Like, it wasn't a becoming, it was an uncovering. It was already in there. So it wasn't this thing that you had to stretch into. It was just stretching out of what was already in there, like exposing it, right? Like a seed does.
You're speaking my language right now.
All right. I like it.
I recently had a friend who shed even more light in my life. I think the uncovering is still happening, Nick. About 2 weeks ago, I met someone who told me, all the things that you've been doing and all the things that you're achieving, she said, it's always been in you. God just needed to place you in a place where those things could be brought to light. And you wouldn't believe what happened. He told me that 2 Saturday nights ago. I woke up Sunday morning, right? And I listened to Stephen Furtick on church service.
Okay, that's crazy.
I
just grabbed his
what's that, Nick?
today.
Oh, yeah. The title of his message was, It's Always Been in You. And I'm sitting there like, wow. And that helped me uncover more layers, because I think for Stephon Leary, the reason why I wrote that first book was because I got to a place in time in my life when COVID hit. I had a basketball program that I had been doing, since coaching in college for the last 9 years. So I'd been coaching and training for 27 years. COVID hits and shut down all of sports and contact and whatever. And for the first time in my life, guess what I had to do? I had to look in the mirror again and see just who I was.
Holy cow.
And I realized I had lived my life from 17, when that life-changing experience happened, and I was adopted into a family that helped me become who I am today. I had lived my life from 17 to 50, right? But I never went back and looked at 017. And when COVID hit, it made me realize I never dealt with all of the pain that I had experienced in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm on my way to Liberty to explore the opportunity to invent the shoe that I invented. And for the first time in my life, I get this vision driving down the road from Houston, Texas to Virginia. I get a vision in my mind of a little wounded kid sitting in the corner with his hand over his head and ears, blocking out the screams of my mom and my dad who was abusing my mom. I never looked at that. It wasn't until last year when I came face to face with realizing the pain of my past would help redefine my true purpose.
Holy cow. Yeah.
And so I laid down basketball. I laid it down because my whole life was wrapped up in basketball. It kept me from seeing who I really was. And so I ended up canceling my season with my basketball, and I wrote that first book. And it was right after the first book that the second book came. So just about in the past 8 months, I've written 2 books, and I've already started writing a third one. So, but I never thought I was an inventor. I never thought I was a writer. I mean, I struggled in English in school because I didn't care about school. To think that God has brought me to this place and time in my life, I've become so much more than what I ever saw and what I ever thought. But the one thing that I attribute it to is what you said earlier. I took advantage of an opportunity that I did not see how it would work out, nor did I know where it would lead me. I just have tried my best to follow that path. And
let's talk about that, because that is part of the journey in the book, is to step out onto the uncertain path. Because that uncertainty is where the growth is. In religion, they call it faith, and in other places it's trust, or it's just stepping, right? It's the courage to step into the unknown. And so you didn't have a clear path when you started this journey. I mean, you couldn't have said 50 years, 17 years ago, 20 years ago or more, that you would be writing books.
Man.
Right?
Who would have ever thought?
Who would have thought? Yeah. Wow. So,
I tell people, I said I was one of the athletes. Raise your hand.
Yeah.
If you were in the locker room at 7:30 doing homework with everybody sharing answers, make sure you were eligible. It's unfortunate, but that's how I got to a better part of school. But here's what's funny.
Yeah.
I just got mad at one of my daughters today for doing that same thing. I said she was sitting next to one of her friends and they're guessing on answers to see which one would get it right till they could figure out the test. I was like, no, that's not what we do. And they're like, it's COVID, Dad. That's what we do. I was like, no, that's not what you do. That's not what we do. That's funny.
Here's what's funny, man.
And she's going to watch this and know that you can do that and still be successful.
Absolutely. Here's what's funny. Back to that slogan, it's always been in you. I tell people a change in zip codes from the inner city and an impoverished, lack of education, lack of structure, lack of leadership, lack of love and nurturing and all of that stuff.
Man.
Changing zip codes out to the suburbs in a home that was structured, loving, caring. Stephon Leary made a 4.0 his senior year. It was always in me. I just needed something to pull it out. And I believe that about everyone's journey. I believe that greatness is inside of you. There is something or someone that God has on this earth to help you discover and pull back the layers if you're willing to go there. I wasn't willing to go there at first because in writing this book, what I discovered was the most painful part of the process was dealing with the pain. I had to want to cry. I had to want to forgive. I had to acknowledge people that I wanted to forget. It was through that process that I began to accept there's something greater for me, and it's going to come through releasing all of this pain that I've been held inside of me for far too long.
I like how you're smiling through all this too. Like, like what's on the other side of pain now.
Yes, absolutely. I love pain. Hey, I love to work out. What's on the other side of it? Just a couple of muscles, right?
Boom.
Yeah, just looking at what we teach in our programs, we have a mastermind course that we just did, and part of that course, there's 12 steps, 12 adventures that we created inside of that mirror the book, and one of the steps is acceptance, but one of the steps that comes after acceptance is grief. And it's, grief is one of those things that we don't think about. We don't want to experience grief. We don't want to feel that heaviness, but it's in fully feeling that heaviness that we're able to move forward, right?
We find peace, man. I am at a place in my life. I tell people I played college basketball. I played high school football, baseball, basketball, won awards, college scholarship, went to a few NBA camps, NBA agent. You read the list. I'm finally at peace.
Yeah.
None of that stuff brought me peace.
Yeah, wow.
For the first time in my life, man, and releasing and recognizing and realizing everything that I've gone through to get to this place in my life, I finally have seen the light, and I'm finally at peace with Stephon Leary.
Beautiful. That the goal of peace, right? Like, everybody pursues happiness, but I saw a quote the other day that just said that it's the pursuit of happiness that causes unhappiness.
Yes,
because it's already within you. And the goal of peace is you can have peace in the discomfort. You can have peace inside of anger and frustration. You can have peace inside of anxiety and depression. You can also have
a smile behind peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it just gives you a smile that even when things are going wrong, there's a little peace inside of you.
Yeah.
It's like a storm. There's peace in the middle of the storm. And that storm gives you, some peace.
So
the eye of the storm.
In a way, you went, you became a giant in an area of your life. So you really did grow and expand in a way that was phenomenal for your upbringing. I mean, you went from extreme poverty and abuse to reaching some of your dreams. And then you found out, look, I've reached the pinnacle here, but there's something more in Stephon.
That's correct.
And so you went back on the journey to feeling small again. This is the beauty of it, is you went back to feeling small in a new area. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write books. I have no idea how to write books.
Yeah, did you know how to write books before that?
I have no idea what I'm doing. So here's what's funny about that. You ready for this?
Yep.
Book number 3, Mountains and Valleys. You got to go down before you get back up. And what I realize is every mountain you climb in your life, and you look off into the distance and you see bigger mountains.
Yeah.
You see higher levels of success. You see higher levels of achievement. What you think in your mind is, I want to be over there.
Yeah.
But what we don't realize is, unless you're the Incredible Hulk, you can't scale mountains. You got to go down.
Yeah.
To get back up.
I love it.
And so that being small again, and what you make reference to is, I laid down a business for 27 years in which I was secure in my finances, my time. I own my own business. I do whatever I want. And I'm at a place now where I shift into writing, and it's all of this investment in writing and speaking and this time here and there. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm down in the valley. I'm down in the valley. And I've become that small because everyone knew who Coach Leary was in the city when it came to basketball and training.
Huh.
When it comes to writing and speaking, I'm a beginner. Nobody even knows me. I'm about that small. I'm on my downward trend. I think I'm down in the valley, and I'm staring up another mountain trying to climb it.
You know what's beautiful is we have a guest coming on next Wednesday who came from Italy and opened a gelato shop in Santa Monica.
Wow.
And he's got a similar story to what you're talking about here. And we're going to go through his journey, which is a lot like what you're describing here is we go on this journey and we get giant in an area, and then we start something new and we feel small again.
Yeah.
And for some people that feels so overwhelming that they don't pursue their dream, right?
That's correct.
And so you got to go back through the same struggles. A lot of them, the difference is that you know what it takes. Yeah.
I can't tell you all the insecurities and fears.
Yeah, I love this.
You know, what people didn't realize was Stephon Leary, who accomplished so much, had fears and failures and insecurities. And I tell people, I said, oh my gosh, I've cried more in the past year or so than I've ever cried in my life. I've had to come face to face with it wasn't easy for me.
Yeah.
I can wake up, man. I can go train somebody without a thought. I can arrive there and get there and say, okay, here we're going to do this. I can wake up and I can snap my finger and I would be, basketball wise, my business was thriving and I never thought about it. Didn't have to think about it.
Right.
On this journey, this leg of the journey, I've been stretched beyond what I've ever would have thought. But I will also say this though, Nick.
Yeah.
I also say this. It's been the most rewarding. It's been the most rewarding because every challenge that you overcome, every obstacle that you overcome, it's a more exhilarating feeling than the championships rings that I've won coaching and whatever.
Right.
I've stood on sidelines and in gyms where we celebrated championships. And in one of my chapters in the book, I talk about dreams versus purpose. You see, many people live their life for a dream, but there is purpose for every dream and beyond every dream.
Yeah.
The reason why many people get stuck in the valley is because if they don't achieve the dream, they feel unworthy and worthless and not able to accomplish anything. But there is purpose beyond the failed dream. But even for an athlete, when they accomplish the dream, many of them end up back. I know some guys that made it to the NBA, signed multi-million-dollar contracts, who are driving trucks, who are back living in the inner city.
Wow.
Because they did not discover their purpose beyond the dream.
So when it ends,
it
all comes like a house of cards, all comes tumbling down.
Yeah,
so
I want to share.
We look at athletes and entertainers
Yep.
that reach the pinnacle of their career.
Yep.
And they're unhappy because they yet to discover the purpose for the dream achieved or beyond the dream achieved or not achieved. There's greater purpose in every one of our lives. And if we would focus on purpose instead of living for dreams, I think many people will find more fulfillment in life.
So I want to talk about the word purpose, right?
Uh-huh.
And so when you use that word purpose, what does that mean to you?
Purpose to me means that your life, the life that God has given you, was given to you to inspire, change, and impact the world around you.
Yeah.
Everyone has that, no matter what level that is. It doesn't take much to be a kind soul to make someone happy. You see, I think that we look at dreams and purpose in the same light, and a dream could be an actor, but purpose can be, now that I'm an actor, I want to pour into somebody else's life.
Yeah.
When your cup is full, it overflows. The overflow should not fall on you. The overflows should fall on others. You discover that purpose is something that's not just for you, but it's for someone else. So purpose, as I see it, is God using our talents, abilities, skills, our character, our kindness, our personalities to impact others and impact this world. That's the way I see purpose.
I love it. I want to share just a view, kind of a shift as well that might even make that even more impactful. And I love where you're going with that, because it's this creation that there's always more in you, right? When you get a dream, that's almost like it's the end. It's like a goal, right? That's it. And so the word purpose, it stems from the word to move forward and to pause, right? So the meaning move forward, and pose meaning pausar, meaning to pause, right?
Love it.
So it's a place to rest and then pursue more, right?
Yes.
So if we look in, biblical, if we look at the laws of the talents, right? Some were given 1, 2, 5, right?
Correct.
So regardless of where they were, they expanded as much as they could. And even then they had the opportunity to expand even more. So purpose is that place to pause, to regain your bearings like you're doing, and go back and see, well, what else is in Stephon that we haven't seen yet, right?
Yes.
And
I
had
someone in basketball the other day.
Yeah.
They reached out to me. They said, hey, man, we need to get you back in basketball. These kids need you. As if it's a guilt trip that now I'm not helping kids. And I said to him, I said, you know what? I said, I realized that I've helped so many kids in basketball that I was leaving out kids that may want to be inventors, that may want to be authors, that may want to be something else. And I've changed courses to help other kids. Not that I'm not helping kids at all. It's greater purpose.
Doing this can help those kids in basketball too, that realize, look, there's more to life than just basketball. Basketball is something important, and it can, it's changed your life.
That's right.
But then outside of that, let's expand that. There's more to you than just basketball.
What will you do beyond basketball? There's purpose beyond that. There's purpose. I love also that, going back to my guy, my buddy Simba, right? You go back to Simba and you realize that while Simba was running from a painful past experience, he ran because somebody told him to run away and never return.
Yeah.
And so what I talk a lot about is, what voices are you listening to that will inspire you to fulfill your purpose? And I love the scene. In the movie when after he sees his father and his father tells him, remember who you are. You are the son of a king. Remember who you are. And after that thing disappears from the sky, right? He takes the stick and he hits him on the head. And Simba says, ouch, why did you do that? And he said, that hurt. And Rafiki says, oh, yeah, the past does hurt. But then he swings at him again and he said, but you can either run from it or you can learn from it.
He ducks, right?
And he ducks when he swings again. And then he runs back to his purpose. See, what I like to tell people is that, listen, you're going to have some painful experiences in your life. And those painful experiences are to help you learn as you go. I love what you said in purpose. You learn as you move forward into fulfilling the purpose in which you created. The saddest thing that we have today, guys, is that we have people who we've seen accomplish great dreams, actors, singers alike. And the saddest thing is to turn on the TV one day and hear they've taken their own life. They've taken their own life. And that saddens me, because the family that adopted me had 4 kids. And one of my brothers recently passed away. And he passed away because he was running from the pain. And because he ran from his pain, as a family, we thought he was in Louisiana. we get a phone call that he's dead in a back alley in St. Louis. He became a homeless journeyman, right? And I say to people that when your pain is so deep and so painful, like I said earlier, you don't want help. You don't want anybody to help you. That's that moment of despair that I think people reach. But the thing that pains me the most is that mom and dad were praying and waiting for him to return. So call and ask for help. And I would say to anyone that's out there that's at that point, there's always a greater purpose beyond the pain. Just ask for help. There are people who would want to help you right where you are. And you can be great and achieve great things and find purpose from right where you are. I've seen it happen.
Man, you've got this vision that you have around purpose, right? It could be anything, Stephon. We could put you in anything and you would find purpose in that thing. It's not, I don't hear in that there's one purpose for Stephon.
No.
Yeah. You say that matter of factly.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely no.
But before, maybe it was like stuck in that, like my purpose is basketball, like, right? Or you don't know what your purpose is and floundering, right?
I was, man. I was stuck in something great. I was helping change lives. I've been coaching 20-something years. I've had hundreds of kids come through my basketball camp. I coached at the high school, junior high, college level, did basketball camps, Virginia, Florida, Texas A&M International. I traveled and did camps. I've been fortunate and blessed to be able to touch a lot of young people's lives.
Wow.
But I realize, Kobe Bryant said something, and speaking of purpose, Kobe Bryant said something when he retired. He said, I gave basketball all I can give it. No regrets. You see, when you give something all you can give it and there's no regrets, you can find purpose in something else. And Kobe did that, right?
Yeah.
Kobe began to find purpose in being a great girl dad. He found purpose in writing little short stories. He was starting to do a myriad of many things just to continue to inspire other people. And so, yes, you can absolutely find purpose in a myriad of things, because the ultimate key behind helping others find purpose is to simply inspire and encourage them that they too can accomplish great things in their life if they will choose to do that.
I'm going to speak this, and it may be completely off. Somebody might get mad at me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You think of these advanced learners, kids that just are crazy intelligent and they graduate early.
Yeah.
Right. And in life, there's lessons in life. And in a way, this is a possibility that there are people that get the lesson of life early. They're so advanced in where they are in their life that they graduate in a way, where they move on from this world. Right. Yes. And the hope is that they don't end it too early for themselves, but there's people that they accomplish one purpose and then they're moving into their next purpose, and then their life ends, right?
That's right.
Unexpectedly. And it's almost like that idea that they got the lesson, right?
They got it.
You don't have to fully go through it again in a way. Now, I don't know, and that might offend somebody, and I hope that's not my purpose there with that.
Right.
But the idea there is that what we're here to really grab a hold of, especially in your message, is that we get to create our purpose.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And when we accomplish one, we get to create another one.
Yes.
And there's no end to it.
There's no end to it.
Yeah.
Until it's the end.
Until it's the end. Yeah. And we don't get to decide
purpose, and you can find purpose in many things. I woke up one day recently, and for whatever reason, I had a lot of snacks and drinks and whatever. And it's sitting around my house, and I'm thinking, I'm probably not going to do another book signing for a while. What am I going to do with this stuff? And it hit me one day. I woke up, and it said, go feed the homeless. You see, there's always somebody who's less fortunate. There's always somebody who can use a helping hand from you. I have this amazing chapter. You'll love this, Nick. I have this amazing chapter, the senses. Since you talk about you are more than what you see, which is a sense, right?
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
Well, we got to talk about the other ones. Hear, touch, taste, smell. And I say, I say to people in this chapter of book that I write, could it be that you're only living 20% of your life because you're so focused on what you see? You see, wisdom comes from touch. We learned that as a child. Don't touch that, it's hot. We learn from touch. We learn from things that we hear. Sends message to my mind to think. I say that there are two dominant senses that people do use to shape and form their lives. And I challenge everyone, start using all of your senses. You see, if I felt something, like touch, I would know whether it's good for me or bad for me. But if I add touch to it, if I add voice to it, if I add seeing to it, we know smell, you can go around somebody and something's not right. Something's not right. I mean, there's almost a sense in the air, an aroma.
Yeah.
Something negative about to happen.
Correct. Yeah.
And there's, the tasting part of it I love, because I tell people I love to eat. Sweets is probably my enemy, and it's everyone's enemy. Sugar's the enemy, right? But what I say about taste is that there's a scripture in the Bible said, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good." Well, what did he really mean by that? What did he really mean by that? Can you really taste him? Is he an edible thing? No. What he was saying was to get involved into something that gives you the taste of something that was good. If you're a part of something good, it gives you this, man, that was good.
Yeah.
When you hear a great message, it's like, man, that
I'm
was
tasting
good.
your message right now.
That's
This is and smelling it. This is amazing.
So I tell people that your senses, it's 5 of them. And if you don't use all 5, then you're living less than your potential, because God gave you all 5 to help you learn, grow, and get wisdom and making every decision you need to make in your life. Don't get caught up into what you see. Don't get caught up into what you hear. Advance yourself.
Yeah, and add to that, I think we're here for that experience, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's all of it. The experience, like you wouldn't savor the flower without that foul smell, right?
Yes, correct.
You wouldn't savor the beauty without the ugly.
Right.
And so one of the senses that we often ignore, that I think we ignore, and this would be the 6th one, is feeling, emotion, right? Yes. And like you said, there was a point where you had to really sit with your emotions. And that's one that we often avoid because it's so intense. And that's where the numbing comes from, right? And it's that 6th sense. Yeah, it's that one thing that really could add, it's the final touch. It's like the seasoning on that savoring, right?
That's no doubt.
But if you won't sit through it, then you don't ever get that.
Man, I tried to run from it, Nick. I tried to run from it. When COVID hit, I have a kid who has a full court in his backyard, and he has a lot of extra room. And so I took all of my equipment over to his house, and I said, we're just going to train right here. And I started inviting some of the other players. I tried my very best to not be sit down and deal with Stephon Leary.
Holy crap. Yes. I love that you're talking about
it wasn't until I don't even know how I hurt my foot. And I woke up one morning and my foot was swollen. I took a step out of bed and I was like, "Oh, what the heck is that?" And I looked down and my foot is a balloon. And I text my guys. I'm like, "Hey, man, I can't make it today. I don't know what happened to my foot, but I can't move." Wow. And so it was almost like God was saying to me, "Sit down. Just let me talk to you." And that foot problem didn't go away for 6 weeks.
Wow.
And that was the 6 weeks that I used to write that book.
Wow.
He like forced you. He's like, if he's not going to stop, I'm going to make him stop.
I got to sit this dude down.
Wham.
I was running from dealing with that painful part of my life. I tried everything to avoid it.
Holy cow.
It has become the most freeing experience I've ever had in my life. I was running from that one thing that would give me the greatest sense of peace and joy in my life.
You were fighting the thing that set you free, right?
Wow.
Absolutely.
Huh.
Unbelievable.
How many people
are fighting that thing that's holding them back from being free and discovering their peace because they don't want to deal with that painful experience.
And it's probably them holding themselves back. It might not be any external thing. It just that moment to choose, that choice.
Yes.
Fear, worry, doubt,
correct.
Whatever. But on the other side of pain,
man,
2 muscles.
Magic.
Just a couple muscles, man. Not only a couple muscles, you get a little confidence with the muscles because some people like your muscles. And you'll start to hear some of the positive things that you missed when I was on that other mountain.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of great things about myself on that other mountain. I came down into the valley and there wasn't any voices.
Where did all my people go?
Yeah, where did everybody go? I find myself alone in the valley.
Amazing.
Until I started to build some muscles beyond the pain and discover some peace and some joy beyond the pain. And I realized that it was time for something else in my life. God had greater purpose. Time for another level, man.
Yeah. Somebody called it mountains without tops.
Hey, I like that.
Yeah.
We can't scale mountains. Got to go down before you get back up.
Right. Man. Yeah, you are an inspiration. I mean, really, I see more coming. Like it's not, I don't see you ever ending your Giants journey. You'll get one mountain climbed and then you'll see another one. You'll go back down in the valley. Right.
In the distance.
We'll have Stephon on the show again, but you'll be crying this time. We'll have you in tears. Like, I can't do it, man. Yeah, you can. Get back up the mountain.
In the distance.
Here's the interesting thing too, is that so as you learn those steps, and the journey's different, but the process is very similar. We've interviewed what episode are we on, Nick, right now?
Number 70.
70 giants that we've interviewed so far.
Wow.
And their stories are different, but the process is very almost eerily similar, where you can go back through and pick out nuggets from each one and the steps they followed in creation and to get to where they are. And it's so familiar. And now, so you go down a mountain, right? You're going down that other side, and and looking up to the next one, you go, okay. You lean on your experience and go, okay, this is a little different. I might have to do a few things different, but you know what? I know what to do. Step, and boom. Pretty soon you're on the top of the mountain again, going, "There's my people."
Yeah.
I hear them again.
There they go. To put that in perspective for you, as far as it relates to me, I wrote that first book and I signed with Beyond Publishing. and I never thought I would be an author. So just the thought of becoming an author, I was extremely proud of myself. But I also laid out in the book the painful areas and experiences in my life that many people didn't even know I had. I never talked about it.
Mm.
But the second book, talking about on the other side of the mountain, similar obstacles to climb. I knew after I wrote the second book that it was going to be a pretty good book. I just didn't know how, and I didn't know why. But a friend of mine told me, they said, you ever thought about submitting your book to like somebody like TVN or something? I was like, no. I just wrote the book. Well, I was watching TVN one night, and Trilogy Publishing Company came up. And I saw the Trilogy Publishing thing come up, and I thought, oh, what the heck? Give them a call. So I called them, and they told me what they were looking for. I said, well, I have a book that I think is pretty good. And they said, we'll submit it, we'll go over it, and we'll let you know what we think. It took about a week or so. I didn't hear anything, and then those insecurities and fears came up. I thought to myself, they didn't like it. They're not going to get back to me. I can't believe this guy who was talking trash to people shooting the basketball turned to this guy that's like, oh, they don't like it. But all of a sudden, man, I wake up one morning and I have an email that was sent to me. And the email said, we love your manuscript. We would love for you to be a TBN publishing.
Wow.
And I said to myself, wow. And you know what I said? Thinking about this other mountain.
Yeah.
That was my NBA mountain, man. I may not have graced the court of the NBA, but I felt like I made it as an author because TBN being the #1 Christian TV and inspirational platform in the world accepted my manuscript.
Wow.
I felt like I made the NBA.
You know what's amazing that I spotted in this is that you had insecurities that came up and it didn't mess up the outcome because you didn't act on them.
Nope.
Right? This is what happens is people get the insecurities, but then they act on them and they fulfill what they're afraid of.
That's preach, brother.
Yeah, you had those insecurities. You felt afraid and nervous and a lack of confidence, but it didn't mess up the outcome in any way because you didn't act on it.
But a lot of people on the other side would look and be like, dude, that's Coach Stephon. Like, he doesn't have fears. He doesn't have any worries.
Yeah.
Like, he's king of the world.
Yeah.
But we do, right?
To the gym and, I still go in the gym and shoot and, beat a lot of my players. So they still would think like, you? I'm thinking, yeah, me. Yeah. I was when I got that email, I called my mom.
Yeah.
My adopted mother. I said, Mom, they accepted my manuscript. And I was crying like a baby.
Oh, man.
And she said, I am so happy for you. I knew you can do it. And I'm like, I didn't know I could do it.
She knew though, right? She was your giant that always saw the potential, right?
Always has been.
The beauty is that there's grace for negative feelings. There's grace in the process for those negative insecurities that we get. Yes. And if people can remember that, you can have those and still create amazing things.
Well, think about Jesus, right? In the Garden of Gethsemane.
Oh,
he's I mean, wondering if there's another way.
Yes. Even
he
when
had
he was on the cross, he said, Father, why do I have to?
Right?
Do I have to?
Yeah.
Why have you forsaken me?
But he'll do that. Yep, exactly. But he did it anyway.
Did it anyway. Did it anyway.
Yep.
That's a great message for people. Do it anyway.
Yep. Just like Stephon Leary. Yeah.
If I can You can. You are
Yeah.
more than what you see.
Well, perfect. So we'll wrap up here, but I want to ask, is there one more piece of wisdom you want to share with people that maybe are watching this show? One thing that you think would be vital for them to remember?
I think giants, I love the concept you guys are working with, giants, because what I think that you're trying to get people to understand is that outward appearance that everyone sees is just a small part of who you are. But there's a giant in every one of you. I love the concept. I would just like to encourage you, everyone, you are more than what you see. There's a giant in you. There's greatness in you. There's a purpose waiting just for you. No one else can live out your purpose. The purpose in which you were created for is waiting on you. You just have to go fulfill it.
Wow.
Yeah. Beautiful. I think we wrap it up there. Thanks for being on the show. You're a powerful human. I hope we see more of you. We're going to get you a copy.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get you a copy.
Let me know, man. I'm here.
Yep.
I'd love to be a part of whatever you guys got going. Let me know. Shoot me text, email. Let me know how I can be a part of what you guys are doing. I would love to do anything to help inspire others.
So hang on after we're done with the video here, because we'll end the clip and we'll chat with you for a sec.
Sounds good.
Those that are watching, thanks for being on. Ryan, did you have any other thoughts?
Man, wow, what an inspiration to others, that a giant can have fear and doubt and all these different things, but can still step into it, lean in and grow and find something on the other side, another purpose. That's an amazing thing. So thank you for those lessons today, Coach. We appreciate you, man.
Thank you guys for having me. Thank you to your audience for listening. I appreciate it.
Perfect. Everybody make it a giant night. We'll see you in the next video.